Should I just
Oh,
get my
very nice.
scone? I've got my scones and I've got my and I have my cup of tea. So, so let's kick off. If people come in late, they can join from. I'll see us on Facebook Live. So, Shannon, it is just so exciting for me to catch up with you guys again today. It was great when you were over here recently visiting our country. You did it while all the fires were happening. So, and now, of course, everything that's happening through the world is with us as well. But I just wanted to start off today. The whole idea of this tea and scones things. G'day, Chris.
G'day, Mark.
The whole idea of having tea and scones on a Monday morning was really just to. Hey, Chris, do you want to just go straight onto Facebook, and it's live streaming on Facebook, and hang up on Zoom?
Roger.
Good on you, buddy. So the whole idea was in these effectively scary times, and as you know, being part of Coach for all those years, you know, Dan's a legend at his thinking and the way he approaches these sorts of things. But the whole concept was I wanted to have a positive way to start every week for those that are out there watching this, and to start off using some of the coach tools, doing a positive focus, talking about gratitude, and the other issue was talking about focusing every day on one of the other great concepts we got from you and Dan was focusing on your three big things. So every morning, even when you're isolated at home, give yourself three things that are important to you during the day, and just make sure that that's what you want to do during the day. You focus on those and you feel really good about yourself, because at the end of the day you can sit down and say, you know, those three things, whether it's mowing the lawn, whatever it was, feel good about the progress that you've made during the day. So, Shannon, Shannon, I don't know what your role is in Strategic Coach. You're like the second in charge guru or something, I think, but I'm not sure. So welcome, and thanks for joining us today on our live show.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's great to see you again so soon, which is really fun. Okay, Mayor, just leave the meeting, hon. Go to Facebook.
I just did that, and I came back. I ended up back here.
Okay. So I've been with Strategic Coach since July of 1991. So I've been around for so much of Coach's growth and development, and got to hang out with you for over 17 years, Mark, which I think is pretty special, yeah. And several different places. Yep, which is amazing. So for me, the positive focus has been huge. And I've also, in the scary times in the last couple of weeks, we've really Scary Times was actually something that Dan Sullivan created in 2000, after 9/11. About 2 weeks after, especially with all of our New York clients being hit really hard. And we've updated it for 2001, for 2020, which is pretty special. And this is actually in a lot of ways scarier, because we're all in this together to kind of try and keep everyone safe. But how is it that you actually support people? And how can you stop focusing on yourself and focus on others? Forget about your commodity and focus on your relationship. Those are just the first two strategies. So we've had a lot of fun interviewing. We have an Inside Strategic Coach podcast. We've got a new video series. The link is in the chat to all those good things. You can download the Scary Time Success Manual. But it has been so fun to just support a different mindset around this whole process. It's actually, like, Dan and I are busier than ever, which is kind of fun, and we've got this collaborative partnership we've been developing over the years. So for us, it's just been an opportunity to really help our clients, and frankly, the global entrepreneurial community out there, just really, how do they embrace, you know, what's possible, forget about what we've lost or what's changed, and how to focus on what new things can be created. So I just really appreciate, like, Dan's mindset is just such a great place to hang out in. And you've always felt that, Mark. Yeah. So for me, it's just fun to be able to put a different and positive message, that really validates people's creativity, their resourcefulness, their resilience, the fact that lots of really good things are happening, even amongst all of the really hard to process changes that are going on. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. So should we get everyone to do a positive focus? Would that be fun?
Look, absolutely. And maybe you want to talk about the link where you get this, but certainly I've already done my positive focus today, and it's one of the exercises that I basically start every meeting with clients and certainly with team members all the time. Shannon, you'd be very proud. I'm a very good student.
You are.
And so let's just start off and the exercise. Do you want to talk about what the exercise is?
Yeah, it's really basic. And actually, if you click on the link up here, the Positive Focus is in there. So we've combined all of the Scary Times resources, including the Positive Focus, because we shared that last week and made it available for everybody. So this is completely complimentary with Coach. And the normal process is to go through about 5 things a day. We have a win streak app which is free for iOS and Android, and that's where you do your 3 wins for the day and what you want your 3 wins to be for tomorrow. And then regardless of whether or not what you planned happened, you still write down your 3 wins, whatever happened. But it's really powerful to reflect back on your progress. And I think one of the big challenges in this whole shift from what was into what is right now with, you posted this great picture, Mark, of the lack of planes flying over Australia, and given that you're often one of them, that was fairly meaningful for you, and versus the number of planes flying in the States. I'm not on a bunch of planes, which I was supposed to be, both to the States and to Europe. I had a whole bunch of trips planned, but it's quite startling, right, in terms of what you thought was going to happen versus what is. So to really focus on progress, not perfection, is really the purpose of the Positive Focus. And one of the reasons why it's so critical for entrepreneurs is because Dan was talking about this in the Scary Times video, which, by the way, is one of my favorite things that we've done. Sure. So if anyone's got half an hour, just phenomenal. A whole new take on Scary Times. It's different than the Scary Times Success Manual. So good stuff in there, including figuring out your own Scary Times skills. But one of the points that he makes is that, entrepreneurs have signed up for Scary Times. Just by being an entrepreneur, you've signed up to put yourself in a much different risk category than most humans on the planet. And so you actually have built some muscles towards that capability that some other people haven't, and that you've got some successes in the past. So even if you take a look at the Positive Focus for this week or yesterday, and by the way, it's Sunday at 8 o'clock in Toronto, which is where I'm joining you from.
That's 8 p.m.
Yes, 8 p.m. So if I were to turn it around, you'd see night, or just about nighttime here. But it was, so I have a free day, another Coach Concept kind of Positive Focus for today. But just really reflecting on what did work, what represented progress. It could be family, it could be fitness. It was a beautiful spring day here in Toronto, and got out and got some sunshine. Yes, we stayed far away from everybody else. We did have to walk our dog, but it was just delightful to experience nature. And that was one of my big positive focuses, and got a few other things moved ahead in my life. This sounded really dumb, but we cleaned out the fridge.
I know how important that is.
There's something very, and then we found a few things. We're like, oh, we've been good if we ate that. But, now that our home environments are so much more important because we're stuck in them, that was kind of fun and satisfying. And there's something about getting to the tangible in our lives. Mark, you and I work a lot in the intangible and mindset. So it actually was kind of fun to do something like that. So the Positive Focus is simply reflecting on 5, could be big, often little things that you did that for you represent progress. That's our definition of achievement. Then you can tell yourself the reason why. And the key thing about this is the reason why is your reason. It's not anybody else's. It's not what someone else thinks you should do or could have done. This is you personally taking full ownership over your achievements, your progress. And then whether or not there's any further progress, and sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. For our walk today, I would say do it again tomorrow would be another good one for me. And then what's your first action? And that has to include a verb. Make sure that there's some action word that really helps you do that. So that's really how you do the Positive Focus. You can do the short version on the Winstreak app or the longer version in the tool that I've put in the link here. But anytime you reflect on your own experience, take full ownership for what worked and what progress you've made and how you can keep that going tomorrow will automatically have you feel dramatically better and really create your own space, your own positive, I don't want to call it a bubble, but you know what I mean, force field, sure, versus all of some of the others, often negative information that's coming into you. So it's really important, I think, we create our own internal resource and environment around us that reflects our own experience rather than just taking in other people's.
Absolutely. And look, I might say, Shannon, I haven't used live stream before, so even though we're using Zoom and you've posted up this link, I'm not sure whether that comes through on live stream. So what I will do is after we finish, I'll post a link on Facebook, which will show the resource, all the strategic coach resources you're talking about. I've actually watched a couple of the Scary Times interviews you've done with Dan recently, and I've really loved them because certainly, Leonie, if I may ask, can you please go off Zoom and go onto Facebook Live? Thank you. You know how to do that? Either that or I'm going to bump you off.
Nice.
Leonie, can you go on Facebook Live, please?
Oh, I'm not supposed to be on here?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Oops, I just bumped Shannon instead of... that was a mistake. So, look, I'll just keep talking, but I will post up the link to all the resources that Shannon's been good enough to give us, and I'm sorry I just bumped her off Zoom, so I'm sure she'll come back. But what I thought I'd do is just go through my positive focus. As you see, I've written down the 5 achievements that I've made, I think, in this week, or things that are important to me, things that we're making some progress on and I'm very happy about. The first one was that, look, my mum, who's 90, she's fine, she's in great health, been keeping in touch with her. My kids and my grandkids are all in great health. Matthew's off skiing, he's having a great time in Japan, and Angela and her kids and family they're in great health, they're in great spirits, and they've been working away. So I'm just getting a message here from Shannon saying I've booted her off, so I'm not sure how I get her back again. The next thing was we've released a new tool this week. Hold on, I can't get back on because I booted her off. Wow. So if you guys can just hang on a sec, I'll have to work out how I get her back again, which I have no idea. Well, that was a bad blow. Anyway, I will keep going. So Shannon, thank you for your contribution. Anyway, we've released a new product called the Family Custodian Blueprint, and I'll put that up. We're doing some ads on Facebook now, so that's been some progress that I've made. I've decided not to participate in this recession or the problems in regard to the economy. I need to make sure my business is still firing away after everybody gets better again. The progress in regard to the kids is to make sure I keep in touch with them each day. The next thing we did was I've had to basically change my business, which is great. We're now going to do Zoom calls once I learn how to use it properly. We're going to do Zoom calls and online with our clients, and I guess that's going to save a lot of costs in travel and so on. As much as we like to meet people, certainly in my business, it's all about human interaction, meeting people face to face. But I think people throughout the world are going to realise that this is the way of the future in regard to doing business and relating to people. So, we've made that move already. All my business with clients from now on is going to be via these sorts of calls. And so what I need to do is make sure it's easier for clients to contact me and that I learn how to use it and not bump people off inadvertently. Sorry, Sharon. The other thing I've done is a lot of my friends have been very forthcoming in regard to doing video testimonials for me and for my business, and it's very humbling to get comments from people in regard to how they find that I've been able to help them in regard to doing business, and that's going to be very important to me in regard to, I guess, what's called social proof. And in a virtual world, people need to see a lot of social proof before they do business with you, I believe. So I've been very grateful for the fact that a lot of my clients have been able to say really nice things, which hopefully will give other people confidence to deal with us in the future. And the fifth thing is that regardless that I'm tucked away here at Main Beach in the Gold Coast in a one-bedroom apartment on the 19th floor, there's a great park across the road. I'm not sure I'm allowed to use it after today, but certainly, I'm just going to keep getting out and exercising each day. I think it's very important from physical health, mental health point of view and so on that we keep up exercise and we keep active and so on. Now, I find doing a positive focus on a daily basis, as Shannon said before, is just really, really important. It just keeps your state of mind really on the front foot, I guess. And, you know, it's all very well to sit here and watch the news and think about all the bad things that are happening in the world, but I think the most important thing to do is to work out how we're going to continue to move forward, because this will all be over one day. Life will go back to a new way, I guess, in the future. It's never going to be the same again. But we've got to look to see how we're going to be a positive part of the future, not sitting here going, oh, woe is me, and look at what's happening and look at what's negative. That can be really bad for our energy, for our spirit, and certainly for mental health. So I really encourage you every day, as we said before, think about where you have made progress, think about the good things that are happening in your life. It's very easy to focus on bad stuff. Think about all the good stuff that's happening in your life. And we've got... Sorry about bumping you off before, Sharon. Anyway, luckily your husband's got a different computer, so welcome back again. And so as I was saying, it's very important to keep going with every day. Think about the positive things that are happening in your life. Focus on gratitude. What can you be grateful for today? And certainly each day when I go for a walk, there's 5 things I focus on from a gratitude point of view. First of all, I focus on where I live and what a great place, what a great environment we have. And, you know, there's nowhere else in the world. I love visiting other places, but there's nowhere else in the world that I'd rather live, with all the freedom and opportunity and so on that we have. So that's the first one is I focus on where I live. And every day I find something different on that topic to be grateful for. Second one is my health. The fact that I can still get out, walk around, I've got the freedom of movement and so on. You know, I don't have any ailments. I've had lots of checks lately and everything's fine. So where I live, my health, my family, and these aren't in any particular order. But as I'm walking, I'm thinking about how lucky I am to have Mum's still with us. She's 90. I've got 2 wonderful children. I've got the 2 greatest grandchildren in the whole world. So I'm really grateful for my mum, my kids, my grandchildren, my siblings, and friends and so on as well. The fourth thing is about I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had in my life. And over 63 years, I've travelled to lots of places. I've done lots of things throughout the world. I've played golf at golf courses, every part of the world you could possibly think of. And I'm just grateful for all the experiences. And my experiences have been very rich, and I've been very blessed to spend time with wonderful people through my 63 years and to have those experiences. And the fifth thing I'm grateful for is the future. So every day I'll think about, okay, I'm grateful for all the things that haven't happened yet, and I know there's going to be wonderful things ahead of me. I'm going to have wonderful opportunities. There's new relationships. There's people I haven't met. There's things I haven't done. There's business opportunities I haven't even dreamed of yet that are ahead. And I'm actually grateful for the fact that that is still to come. You know, my future is, in Dan Sullivan speak, my future is still very much going to be bigger than my past. And you know, I dream about it. I try and visualize and I try and manifest things. But there's potentially strategic byproducts of things that I'm doing that I could never even dream are going to happen in my life. And I'm grateful for the fact that that adventure is still ahead of me. So they're my 5 modes of gratitude that I go through each day. Positive focus, as we talked about, and Shannon, thank you for your contribution there. I think I mentioned that link that you put up, Shannon, is one that I'll post on Facebook after this. And once again, I apologise for bumping you. I bumped the wrong person.
No worries.
I didn't realise you couldn't come back again.
I didn't either. Learned something new.
There you go. So, yeah, your thoughts on, the list of things I thought I'd talk about today, and I hope everyone's got their cup of tea and their scone with them, or their muffin. What have you got there, Shannon? You've got a muffin of some sort.
Banana muffin that I made yesterday.
Yep. Now, the things I thought we'd talk about today, and I'm going to do this each week for the next 10 weeks, and I things I wanted to cover today were the positive focus, focusing on your three big things when you jump out of bed every morning, or you probably should have planned this the night before, but when you get out of bed every morning, there should be three things that you've got lined up, and that's all you need to achieve for that day. And then at the end of the day, basically as you're sitting down having dinner, sit down and instead of thinking about what didn't work during the day, think about what did work and the good things that have happened in your day. And that's just such a great way to go to bed focusing on all the stuff that's worked and just put your mind in a very positive place. Very hard to get depressed if you follow these rules.
It
Sure.
is. I want to jump in, Mark, because there's a couple things that you said I just really want to emphasize. One of them is, really figuring out what are your three, we call them crucial results for the day, and simply holding yourself to that standard, as you mentioned, rather than the 30 things that you could do. And one of the things that's interesting is that we're at home, and if you're like most people and like me, there's a long list of home projects you haven't gotten to for a long time and that you should do. And that can be really overwhelming and kind of depressing. And especially if you're doing work as well, or you're also trying to all of a sudden learn how to homeschool your children, if that's something that you're focusing on. So I think really pulling it down to those three things. And for those of you that are list makers, well, sometimes you can do something and write it down afterwards and check it off. That's always really satisfying. But just hold yourself to those three things and make sure they're doable. I think we put ourselves into what we call that gap of an ideal of how we're supposed to be, or our day's supposed to be, or the world's supposed to be. And that's just a recipe for depression and disaster, not to be too dramatic. So I think, as you said, focusing on the three things. And the other thing that you said that just really struck me was being grateful for the future. Because of all the crazy steps that we're taking, some people will have a future that they wouldn't have had otherwise if they got sick. So that's pretty powerful. And then we will have a future too. It might be very different. Dan talked about this in one of our other conversations, that one of the biggest dangers for people is that they kind of run out of future because the future is different. And I've read articles on grief last week about people are grieving the future that they had, which is completely appropriate. But then it's time to set a new one. And one of the things we're going to be talking about this coming week or two, stay tuned, is what do you want your life to be like 100 days after we get the all clear to go back? What do you want it to be 90 days or 100 days? And I cannot wait to have the conversation with Dan. I can't wait to see what he says. We've done another version of it years ago, so I'm kind of excited to see what's new and different. And I did my 1-year goal meeting with our team from goals I'd set in January, and it was really fun to look at the fact that by December, I can still make all my goals. Am I going to happen in exactly the time frame that I had thought? No. So even though our short-term future is very different than what any of us planned, especially for those of us that travel and jump on airplanes all the time, or don't normally homeschool our children. There is a future out there. So I just love what you said, Mark. I think that's so critical, is to focus on how can we be resourceful? How can we be resilient? What new things can we invent? What new capabilities like Zoom can we get good at that are going to help us with that bigger future? And that's actually quite exciting. There's opportunities for reinvention. We were going down one path and all of a sudden we've had to take a turn. Gosh only knows how many degrees that was, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And you mentioned byproducts before, and paying attention to some of those byproducts will definitely have you feel more confident about what's coming.
Well, sometimes you don't know. Shannon, I just love that question. I wrote that book, The Power of Great Questions, and if I had heard this one back then, I would have put it in the book. And the question you asked was 100 days from when this is all finished, right. What do you want your life to look like? Wow. Because I know the fact that you've mentioned that means that you and Dan will work on a book or a capability or something like that. And I just want to tell everyone show everyone. I had to mount my my iPad laptop, whatever they're called, and I mounted them on the 20 or however many books Dan has written. They're mounted up on top of the desk, on top of all these books written by Dan Sullivan. And I'm going to give you a lot of credit here because each one of these books, whoever's watching this, Dan does one of these books each quarter, and that's his 25-year goal. So his goal is to write one of these books each quarter for the next 25 years. And every time the book is written, Shannon interviews Dan, and they do the whole hour and a half's worth of sort of commentary on the book. And I just find that the most valuable part of the whole book is actually listening to you and Dan dissect his thoughts and all the concepts and strategies in those books, Shannon. And you do a fantastic job. You really are a good foil with Dan in regard to getting out of him all his wisdom. He just has an amazing way of looking at the world and the way of thinking, and you two together do a great job. So I need you to email me the minute you create a thinking tool around the 100 days after this is all.
It will be that we're recording it this week. He told me he'd have it ready for tomorrow. We've actually, so you'll find this one. This is like the inside scoop. So we're just finishing book number 21 on Monday, Toronto time. So it'll be nighttime your time. So we have a recording all afternoon tomorrow. And so that will put the finishing touches on the next one, on this one, which is called Total Cash Confidence. You'll love this, Mark.
I love this.
And then the next one, I just got an email today, will be called much expanded version of Scary Times, based on the podcast series we've been doing, which is so good, so fun. I love Dan's brain, and then I love expanding it even further. This is really fun.
And you do it well.
I like multiplying it. And so the process for anyone who's interested is that Dan comes up with an outline, and I interview him on the outline, which is kind of a backstage recording. There's usually about 7 to 8 hours. We have a writer, an editor, a cartoonist that he works with. And then I come back at the end and do what we call front stage author interview, and then some videos as well, which is available actually off our client website too. You can listen to all of that information. And I'm really actually happy with the audio recording for Always Be the Buyer. There you go.
It's like, the thing I love about these books is like there's words in there, but there's just so many cartoons. It makes it so easy to read.
That's our brilliant, and he's been virtual for a while actually. Hamish, for a while moved to Scotland, came back to Toronto, moved out east in Charlottetown in Canada. So he and Dan have been working virtually for a while, but it's a really fun collaborative process, and he and I are creative partners with each other. So it's a lot of fun to do that. And the recording for Always Be the Buyer, even new things emerged that hadn't been part of the original writing. So each version is actually unique, which is kind of special.
Fantastic. But I want to be the first to see the structure of the tool around the 100 days after this is finished. Because that's a question that would just be the most valuable question. That thinking will draw people forward, and that's the beauty of it. Asking, and it really is about, as I say, the power of great questions, which you guys are also good at, is that a good question will just take you forward in a positive way to an outcome you hadn't even thought of until the question was asked. And I know asking people that question will just make their futures so much bigger.
Well, and you'll like this too, Mark. One of the other, in the second Scary Times audio that we did for the podcast, he talked a lot about one of our other favorite questions, which is the R factor question in the DOS conversation. I know you're also a fan of, which is another future-based question. And normally it's 3 years, but it can also be 90 days. And really powerful to ask people, if you and I are meeting here, let's say 90 days, 100 days from now, what has to have happened for you personally and professionally for you to feel really happy with your progress? And that's a really powerful question. So today, here's the 29th. Is it the 30th?
No, it's Monday morning, the 30th. It's now 10.
Okay, so imagine June 30th, looking back, what has to have happened for you to feel really happy with your progress? Again, progress, not perfection. No perfection. Dan had this great quote the other day. He said, "There's no room for perfection in times of peril." Yes,
I saw that quote.
Yeah,
and now is not the time to get hung up on perfectionism.
No. Well, it was actually to the team about not being too perfectionistic about what we were putting out. Like, let's just get it out there. But it was too good not to share. That's really. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, you guys. For those that don't know what strategic coaches, I attended for 17 years, and it's every quarter. You have a workshop every quarter. I used to go to Chicago with a couple of mates, So every quarter we'd fly over to Chicago. We'd spend a full day with Dan and Shannon and all the team, and then we had the advantage we could sit in the plane on the way home and sort of polish up all our notes and so on before we got back. But it was always great, opportunity to think about our business from a helicopter point of view. But I mean, the greatest part too was the people we met as part of the workshops. I mean, I've met some fantastic people over that period of time, people that I still communicate with, like Shannon, and but lots of other really successful entrepreneurs. People like Peter Diamandis was in one of my sessions, Joe Polish, Stefan Wissenbach, and the launch guy, Jeff Walker. I mean, all those guys.
Today, actually, yeah, Jeff Walker's amazing.
So, I mean, all those guys were in my workshops, and so we met such great people. And I mean, part of the joy of going over there each quarter was catching up with all these guys and just bouncing ideas and thoughts, seeing what they're doing, and so on. And obviously, for you guys now, you've got to freeze the workshops for some, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, or whatever the time frame is. And that's, you're never going to be able to translate your business to a Zoom business, so to speak. But it also shows, you have come up already with ways to still keep communicating with people in your workshops, even though you won't be having the face-to-face workshop meetings. And we've all got to be adaptable. We've all got to find new ways of doing business and not be scared of it, but take it as an opportunity and as an excitement. And I mean,
yeah.
What I gave myself a couple of days to sit back and go, what the what the hell is happening? But I mean, yeah, what happened? And the world is going to be a different place during what we're going through now, and the world's going to be a very different place after we get out of this in 3-4 months' time, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And it's just gearing up, and that's why I love that question. 100 days, where do we want ourselves to be personally and professionally? So Thank you, Shannon, for...
My pleasure. And Coach, might surprise you a little bit, Mark. We actually will be doing some kind of a virtual offering as well as live workshops. Dan gave a great little... we were just chatting about it. I was mentioning how great Zoom breakout rooms were, and because they were super easy and fast and very intimate, just really quite incredible. And I was sort of saying how great they were, almost faster than live. I'm not saying they're better, but they're faster. And then he just kind of riffed for a minute, which I hit record. I'm like, okay, I'll capture this. And he's like, we'll end up doing both. And so, and it's a little bit like radio and television, there's actually more of both right now. People thought that television would kill radio. It did not, and so we keep adding mediums and we keep adding communication capabilities. And so I'm not going to give you a date or anything else like that. But anyway, look for some new things in our future, which I'm excited about.
That sounds fantastic. I look forward to hearing about it. I don't know what a Zoom breakout room is, so I better go and Google that afterwards.
There's a little button in there. You can actually put people into breakout rooms. It's the coolest thing.
And I've learned how not to bump the wrong people off a Zoom meeting, and I'll have to Google the other one.
Anyway, thank you for also logging in.
Yeah, that's right. No, hey, look, thanks. Let's call it a day there. I'll be back here next Monday. And Shannon, loved catching up with you again. You're just such a dear friend, and you have such great capability, and I love all the work all of you do at Strategic Coach, and you especially. Love listening to the podcasts, and maybe in 2 or 3 weeks we'll get together again and talk about all the podcasts that might really be valuable to.
I would love that. And Mark, I have to thank you for your friendship too. One of the things I've had a couple dream trips now, and my second one was to Australia. I like live things. I've decided animals and people. So I went to Africa 2 years ago, and this year was Australia. And one of the things that I was so pleasantly thrilled about was how many coach friends I have. So connecting with you when I was there over breakfast with your beautiful granddaughters was so cool. And I just treasure that relationship and that friendship, and super happy that we can keep it going this way. So thank you. Same.
And lovely to catch up with Bruce again and your daughter. So, okay, signing off. Can I eat my scone now?
You may. You can eat your scone now. Have a great week, everybody. Hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone, today. See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
I've got to learn how to turn it off.
There you go. Leave meeting.